Barbara, you get to go first. How sensitive a business is it for the Southern District of New York, the Justice Department's office in New York, often jokingly called the Sovereign District of New York because of their power? How sensitive is it to look into a guy like Rudy? And do you think they are looking into other things as well?
It is unprecedented, I think, for a former U.S. attorney to be investigated by his or her former office. I'm sure it is considered a matter of very significant magnitude in that office. But they wouldn't undertake it if they didn't believe that there were potentially serious violations of the law. Mike Schmidt mentioned the Foreign Agent Registration Act, which means accepting money from members of foreign government to lobby American businessmen or American politicians. And that is some of the allegations of these two associates in the indictment that was filed yesterday. And so if he was implicated in that, he could be charged as well. You know, one really interesting thing is there have been people talking about President Trump throwing Rudy Giuliani under the bus. We could see at some point Rudy Giuliani throwing President Trump under the bus. He said today that he was acting with authority of the President of the United States. He's going to have an opportunity, if he is charged, to flip and tell what he knows. And if it's the President of the United States putting him up to these things, then that could be a serious matter within the impeachment inquiry.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.